Okay, again, welcome everyone. This is a format we are introducing in the recent past events. We are basically having an open discussion on some topics. Today, the topic of discussion is AI, LLM, and how basically that relates to our small dog world, how we can integrate that into it or not. There are people that support it and against it. Joining us, we have Seth Berman, CEO and President of Presentations. I guess you know it. The Joker. Herman, he doesn't need introduction, I guess, but yes, he's also a very active member here. Juan is the main developer of Twist, and is also working on that word now. Guillermo is also an old Smalltalk developer. I know him for 20 years. He's doing at least Smalltalk. He's also the developer of website and he's doing also some AI integration into that IDE. So we'll be discussing different things. And again, this is an open conversation. We will have questions time as well at the end, or you can just interrupt it. I will try to allocate time slots so we don't just randomly talk about a particular topic. I have a list of topics I would like to go over. So you don't know about? Well, I told Guillermo that he can just use ChatGPT chat and just have that thing answering for him. So, and we always think of Smalltalk as a mind augmenting tool of some sort. And there is this trend, I wouldn't say hype, but because it's new, it's certainly a buzzword, everyone is talking about it, and there's a lot of money being poured into all the AI tools, but like all the big tooling or development, all of those companies are investing heavily on that by using different like plugins. You have AI-driven IDEs, like they were built from the ground up using some sort of AI. JetBrains has it in the tools. You also have the most popular ones, Copilot, from GitHub and all that stuff, from VS Code. So one of the things that I would like to start asking here is basically how you see it. Particularly, I will point that to Guillermo. Is that how you see the AI integration can benefit the developer experience in IDE?
Okay. Hello. Thank you very much, Esteban. I have just a bit of experience in trying these tools, and my position is that it's better than enough, as I said before yesterday. One of the things that I tried was to generate code, small code, and I ran several benchmarks trying to measure not only the health of the code, but also how these things, sometimes I call them virtual parrots, because yeah, essentially they never stop saying something. But the point is that they kind of recover after providing, like, there's the notion of an agent, like implementation of more than just the model responding things. And one of the things that I tried was to, okay, generate this stuff, then I automatically try it, let's say code that passes some tests, and then if I hit some exception, then I went back to the thing and reported with great detail, and it gave me a newer version, and then iterate this way until it recovers. Meaning that the test passes, there is a coverage of my code, etc. So this is the kind of things that I've been trying. But in a more general sense, I think that it's, again, sometimes even when the result of these models is kind of nonsense, I think that they can add new directions, because sometimes I feel that we tend to think in within a narrow path, and even when the answer of these models is something that makes no sense, it can add a new point of view and a new direction in our line of thoughts. So I think it would be beneficial. Of course, this is a super hard way to say it. So what is our discussion to me is that we should pay attention as a community to these kind of tools and see how to integrate them into these, our environments. Otherwise, we would be like, I don't know, showing our back to something that is, even when it is a trend, like in the last the interview that dia2 had made to UNMdP, he mentioned that probably this is one more of events in the history of science that was exactly that. A lot of people focusing on a given topic that after it is discovered. So probably it is one of those cases. But even so, I think that we should pay attention and see how to integrate it into our workflows.
Okay, anybody else wants to add something to that view of how you think that integrating, because LLMs is like basically a hot topic these days, but do you see the different ways of integrating AI into our environment that actually augments our productivity, as we always have? We have a reputation of being highly productive with Smalltalk because of the instant feedback loop and all that stuff. And well, other environments have been catching up. At this point, we are basically lagging behind that because we are not there. So what are your thoughts on that?
Okay, I have maybe some things to add. I think there are many different ways to see this. One of them is from the marketing point of view. Like I said yesterday, our main users are developers. And for me as a professor, when I have to teach Smalltalk, I have to compete with other languages and you know, AI, Copilot, those tools are like the auto completion 20 years ago. Smalltalk didn't have auto completion where you type everything. And we added auto completion because other languages, all the IDEs had it, and it was cool, it was great, it made you work faster. So if we didn't add auto completion to Smalltalk, we fall behind the other languages and IDs. So from that point of view, as a marketing point of view, we need that integration with AI, because we need to compete with the other tools and other languages. If not, we're going to lose a developer that used to have Copilot or something like that, that goes from IntelliJ to Smalltalk. We already know that Smalltalk is so different, so difficult to start working with. And if we add that other difference, they will say, why? I don't want to use it. Why is the need to use that? I mean, why should I use it? Another thing that we have to think positively about this change is that sometimes I ask myself why tools appear in the history of humankind. You would think that tools appear because somebody thought about, oh, let's do something. And you can also think that they appear because it's a need. It's a need of the moment, when humans started to not travel anymore, but stay in places, and they need to move a lot of grains and things. They discovered the wheel, and then, things started to appear because we need them. Something I see lately on students is that they don't read anymore. They don't read, they don't take time to learn, and we would say, oh, you know, this is not really that. All you're going to see is that they don't read it or they don't research because there's so much to read, so many things. 20 years ago, or when I learned Smalltalk in 1995, I think there were 200 classes in Smalltalk 5. 300. It was easy. It was easy to, you know the whole library, all method, one afternoon, you read the whole manual, and that was great. Now it's impossible. So maybe these tools will help, new guys, new students to, it would be like, somebody that knows everything and tells you what to use at the right moment. So for me, it would be great to have a tool for a student, for a newbie, that is trying to do a selling, but he doesn't know it. And he do a do and he true. And it would be great for that tool to tell his friend, you know what, you should sell it, or you can use it, or whatever. So in that sense, the newbie will learn about that message and without going through the whole classes and messages and so on. So I think we have to take advantage of these new ideas, tools, and AI, and see how to make it valuable to us.
Yes.
So I would agree with all that. In fact, when we at the company look at AI, we sort of have this mantra like we're about augmenting, the human endeavor, not replacing it. So we're always trying to think about ways to how AI basically helps us in consuming information, and that's a really interesting thing, but it's subtle. I don't know if any of you guys have used Notebook LM, but it's a really good example. In Notebook LM, it's really an experiment about how there's going to be these new ways that our kids and their kids will consume and learn information. So in Notebook LM, you add a bunch of sources of information, random sources, things that you generate, things other people found, and there's this button that's create podcast. And it creates a dynamically generated podcast between a male and female, discussing and bringing together all that orthogonal information and bits and pieces that you put together, and you listen to it as a conversation. You can listen to it in the car, you can sit back and think about it. Nobody's telling you what you should do, and so this could be part of, no one's telling you how to write your method, how to write your framework. It's just a new way to describe things to you that sparks new ideas. And so we see a lot of value in that, especially as we seek to really help and figure out how to best help the teams that are on these very large systems that we support. And just being able to describe those systems, especially as you have very mature teams that maybe retire out, new ones come in, we need to get folks up to speed. We need to be able to think and understand about the architecture in new ways. We need new tools for that. Some of that is the method completion and those kinds of things, but I tend to look at, bubble out a little bit and think about more holistically, the complete set, the umbrella suite of things where AI can add value. And so I think right now we're in a phase where we're trying to figure out what that value is, and that's going to require some discovery. So we'll try things here and there. We'll see where it goes. But I do see AI. There is a cloud. It's kind of a hazy cloud of hype around the core that is there and really valuable. We just got to get to it. There's just going to be a lot of stuff happening. Some of that will blow away. Kind of like throwing 100 things at the dartboard. 99 will fall off, but there will still remain some really valuable things there that we're going to be figuring out in the next couple of years.
Yes, and adding to that, it's like we always, as small talkers, we are proud of how reflective our systems are. Basically, you can ask the system about the system itself. And now we have these tools that basically can do that for you without a system that's not fully reflective. And even with some type languages, because they can fill those vectors of information with more information, maybe a static type of that language or something more like typing or some other kind of anything. You can have the same. So how you see that vision, how that plays with Smalltalk, that is pure reflective language. Basically, we influence all other languages to be reflective, and now you can have a tool, an agent that actually is insights of your system, and maybe you don't get from the tools themselves.
I would like to be a bit more explicit about the direction this is going on. It's unexpected to me. I want to step back for a second. When LLMs started to become well known and people started using them, well, an LLM generates text. Okay, so the obvious way to use that for programming was to make it generate code. Okay, and I believe that still the common understanding of many or most people is that LLMs should be used for that, for generating code. And that possibility is something that we could consider, think about, and maybe discuss a little bit. But it's becoming clear that everyone here expects the value of LLMs and AI in general in a development environment. It's not so much about generating code, but about helping the developer understand a code base. I think those approaches are completely different, and it's important to be aware of that difference. And particularly, I think that in these areas where the value is most likely to be found, I agree that a larger code base, I mean, as you all said before, in Smalltalk 80, it was possible, as Anita said, for any person or for many persons to dig deep in whichever part of the system they needed and understand everything of it. Just by reading the code and the values spectrums of the and as systems grow larger, the extra complexity is of course a big problem. So we may try to bound that complexity by modularization and that curve design, and of course we do that all the time, but still we demand more from systems, so complexity is still growing, even if we try to avoid this as much as possible. So I see a likely future for forms of AI, maybe LLMs, maybe some other variation in making systems easier to understand and replace other tools like method finder, text search, of course, static typing. I mean, static typing should disappear in every language. Yeah, we already know that dynamic typing is better. We already know that type correction works. We have, Hernan has shown that live typing is practical. Well, an AI may be even better than live typing because it may make some kind of smart conclusions from the collected information. That's a place where an AI may be useful. And in general, training itself with the code in our system and similar systems may give us insights on those systems. I'm way more expecting on code generation because code generation can usually generate data that is very related to the training corpus. And our training corpus in Smalltalk in general is our Smalltalk system or other Smalltalk systems are similar. And as Bradford said in No Silver Bullet in 1996, the difference between accidental complexity and fundamental complexity of the problem we are dealing with. And code generation, AI code generation tools are great at reducing the burden of accidental complexity. They create template code and repetitive tasks and they attack that problem, but they will not solve the creative problem, the creative part of solving a new problem, because that was not the first purpose. And in smalltalk, we are focused more on that than on the accidental replacement. So I expect code generation in smalltalk general to be less useful than for more verbose and template-based languages. But maybe the real value is, as I believe everyone is agreeing here, on helping developers understand.
Yeah, well, I read some time ago about that you can only rely on 3 languages when you generate code using some ChatGPT, Grok, or whatever. It's like Python, JavaScript, and there was another one that I remember. But it was like the only reliable one. If you want the LLM to generate a robot, maybe it's not going to be good. Or Haskell. Yeah, anything that doesn't have like a good training set is going to. And what you mentioned about the complexity and this focusing not on writing but on understanding, which is something that Smalltalk gave us. That's why we have so complex business systems built with Smalltalk. It's like I read something again. It was like not using some kind of AI tool these days. It's like refusing to use Google because it works in a way that basically isn't a directory, as most search engines were before. So now Google came out with ideas just to organize information tables with thousands or millions of columns, and then that changed search basically on the web. Now we maybe have a different way to work with that. Do you want to add something to that?
Yes, no, I want to say that I asked ChatGPT about no silver bullet, and ChatGPT said that it's breakthroughs and not, you said, Rob, who said me? The author, you said, Bradcom.
No,
I didn't. No, thank you, ChatGPT. So anyway, yeah, I said, okay, no, I want to talk about the reflective thing and AI. That's an interesting idea, but I think for AI to take advantage of our reflective system, it should be able to query and understand the answer of that system. And I don't believe that's going to happen with AI. I don't know. Anyway,
Is that one?
Well, I was just going to give some feedback on sort of working with code bases. I actually used AI quite like ChatGPT. I used that a lot for eObserver, which I'll be talking about a little later. But really, the point isn't I don't need it to generate or tell me how to design or generate the code. But what was really useful were things like this. Here's a bunch of my code. I want you to help me generate a security policy.md based on what you're reading about my code. And it generates something. I want you to generate a template code design, .md for designers, and it's able to look at my code and extract from that how it thinks that my design patterns are or the way that I code, and it comes up with a template. And then I read that and I consume that information, and then I think about it. And then I say, well, yes, and I can see why it's saying these things, and I wonder if that is the right way. It's a conversation. It's a tool to help you think. So that's how I see it. I don't see it as a tool to help me write my code necessarily, unless it's really boring stuff like FFI. So I've done that before, where I taught it tonal first, because you have to build up the context if you're going to use a big LLM like ChatGPT. So start with here's the total spec. Here's my get export in tonal format. Here's a bunch of my FFI bindings and extract the patterns that you see in terms of how the bindings are done. Here's C, which is really good at C because there's a lot of data behind that. Here's a C header file. Now generate me the bindings that look like these other things and describe the layout, config maps, applications. So it takes a while to get to the point where it understands, okay, I have enough context to know what you're kind of after. So after I generated, I did, I think it was Redis, something small, I just wanted to see how it worked. It actually had to call it 80%, which wasn't bad. I mean, it's a big giant LLM, you had to give it a lot of context, but 80% of that laborious work was kind of done, And I went back through it. There wasn't really anything imaginative about it, to someone's point. It wasn't generating something new and profound. It was just sort of, I didn't want to sit there and write, for a couple of days, and that 5-lining that was done in, basically 30 minutes of context building and then 10 minutes of generation. And then I swept back through and made the corrections, which I didn't need, I didn't really need it to tell me how to make the corrections. I just didn't want to write all that stuff in.
Just wanted to say that I agree with one that they are very different approaches, and I agree that generating flow is not the most important one. And just wanted to add that the process of reading and even the process of writing supports the process of learning. So I understand your example, Anand, about proposing a better way to write things, snippet, like you said, select, blah, blah, blah. But then I don't see how these tools can support the learning at a higher level, like on the design level, because let's suppose you're a student. First, we should distinguish between the target. It's not saying a student or a newcomer, newbie, that have experience in small talker. The kind of aid that they will need will differ, for sure. But let's suppose you are talking about students. How can these tools can help them think better in terms of the design, rather than just proposing this kind of refactoring, smart tweaks.
I think that's a very relevant question, and I also think that if we train LLMs with a code base, they may become useful for perhaps explaining that code base. But in order to raise them to the level of design, we will need to find ways to train them with design ideas, not just code.
Well, I did an experiment. I just go to Mars Robot Kata. Maybe you know it. It's the building with a really bad design, all gives everywhere. And I asked ChatGPT, or if he could change it and make it better. And he changed it. And it made a better design with the stage and polymorphism and so on. So I don't know if it's going to help you to think about ideas that you don't have or that you don't propose to AI, but it can help you when your code is bad and it's coupled or it has 10 parameters or 20 instance variables, and those kind of things that any good programmer should know, but sometimes, for some reason, some programmers don't.
Really kind of a smart lead.
That's why they would say, you know what, I'm here to have 10 instance variables, not a good idea, why don't you create this and blah, blah, blah. So it does that, and I'm not saying that it's a great, the best solution, but as it says, makes you think. It's also given ideas and you can reflect on that and make decisions.
Well, I have a question for you. What was suggested sounds a little bit like using the AI to suggest heuristics for detecting issues in code and maybe fire a refactoring engine to fix them. So do you envision the AI to generate the code or to call a refactoring engine?
Okay, I pass the microphone to Seth.
Well, AI refactoring isn't like this. So.
Oh, sorry.
I guess I'll bubble back up to that. So I think AI, so there's this discussion of new ideas and sort of this profound, paradigmatic shifts. I don't think AI should. I think again it's a tool. It's a tool to help you think, but the humans are coming up with those. They just need ways to absorb, existing ideas in so back to the notebook LM. I mean, the power of that's hard for me to articulate here before you, but if you used it and you bring together lots of information, have it described to you conversationally, that's a new thinking tool. It's as subtle as the reason I still write things down physically. Because when I type, it doesn't make it to my brain as well. So I still, when I'm in meetings and everything else, I still write by, I've got a remarkable tablet that I just basically am scratching notes, and do I ever refer back to them? Not usually. But the fact is, when I write it, it makes it into here. And so that's a thinking tool itself. And so like notebook LMs, and I think I'm using that example because I thought it was a really interesting thinking technique. But there'll be lots of others that will come out. And so again, I see a tool, something that helps us think, bring together lots of information in a single stream of consciousness. And it's up to us to use that as a tool to do new and profound things. But if the discussion is, can AI be that autonomous entity that's doing the profound stuff as we follow, I wouldn't think that would be the correct way.
I would like to ask the audience, because just raise your hand. So if you use any sort of AI, I would say on a daily, weekly basis. Okay, and the second question is, raise your hands, those that cannot think of not using that after using it.
It's an excellent tool. It's a tool that we can use today.
I want to say something about this wisdom. The example I gave, the factoring proposal that he was good, but it was not the best one. So it's not something that, like he said, it's not something that I will let AI just be make the changes, but read it and think about those changes and the proposal, and maybe it will fire some ideas on your head.
I would like to, before I jump to other topics, since everything is kind of interweaved, but if anybody has a question, we can just pass the mic.
You ask a question, but I don't think it's a good AI idea.
Just two observations. So one observation is that in terms of generating templates, it's a fabulous tool. For instance, we use dia2 to generate some C templates and to make it work. So the obvious thing is have it learn the patterns. You've ever taken a copy of a class that has a pattern and renamed the class in the editor and renamed all the selectors. Then the other is
cannot hear you very well. Yeah.
okay, but then these microphones are so wonderful. The other thing is the if you have a hammer, everything looks like a nail, right? So in terms of culturally insisting on this thing being a tool and never allowing it to become a crutch. Because one of the things that happens with ChatGPT is it only has syntactic understanding. It doesn't have understanding of pragmatics of architecture, of performance, etc. So it's a very surface understanding. And we just have to be, as with the tools, make sure that we keep it in its place.
Okay. And the question is?
Maybe to ask something very question. I usually use two ways. I usually use it. One is to, I don't know anything about topic, usually post in the right direction. I have to learn roaming the movie a bit, and they tell me a lot of maybe why for what I'm important. The other way is with code, usually I can have a discussion. It's usually like a review, and it doesn't generate a refactor for me, but I it research this for me, and then have this discussion with it. And usually I think generally I learn code in some way. So I think in general that will the thing is I can have a discussion with the code.
and use that as a review process. Not necessarily for you to share it with all, or to only criticize and share it across, but you can pinpoint which places you wanted to focus on. And you can have the whole and the context, but not the snippet, and it works in both ways. I don't know your thoughts on that.
Yeah, well, that maybe we can kickstart the thing that I have is basically this rubber duck debugging technique. If you know that debugging technique, you have a rubber duck and you talk to the rubber ducks just to basically verbalize your Java dog. And suddenly you find the answer. The rubber duck never. Right. So it was you. Or how many times did you write an email to the mailing list, and by the end of writing it, you just found the solution. You never sent the email. It happens a lot. And this is, we small talkers, in the early days, we kind of invented this thing of pair programming. And now, do you see that with this thing, you don't need to do pair programming anymore? Because maybe you have somebody that's actually looking at the code in real time.
We don't need people. I don't have an answer for that, but I think we can say that perhaps ChatGPT or an LLM may be better than a rubber duck, but does it make sense to use a real person as a partner for that and discuss with someone else who can have real ideas?
Yeah, because maybe it's not we are replacing it, but it's just like a low-cost alternative for the tax. I mean, we know that we don't all the time do pair programming. Sometimes sit together remotely or in the same desk. Some problems, but sometimes it's useful.
The good thing about ChatGPT or whatever you're talking about AI is that he understands you and it changes, and it looks like he agrees with you. It's not like discussing with you, but you never agree with me. So I like ChatGPT.
You can tell it is wrong even when it's right, and he will say, sorry, I'm wrong.
The question is, do you generate better quality code when you have the argument or worse quality?
We need worse.
Okay, well, this is something that you just actually laid out when you were mentioning. It's like, there's this, in Smalltalk, there are, most of the systems I know are large. They've been running for years or decades. There's a lot of knowledge embedded into that. How do you see we can actually leverage that history of actually a running system or a class library, all the relations that are there, like legacy system, legacy code bases, I don't know, like a code repository that has 20, 25 years old. How do you see that as a benefit to Smalltalk in general? How we can leverage that in our process?
Yeah, so, instantiations are, our customers typically have very, very large systems. They've been running for, 10, 15 years, maybe even longer. And so there's a tremendous amount of data and history behind not just the system itself, but even video meetings that may have occurred, or just all the documentations of emails. There's a whole chain of activity, and basically, and that can be used by certain AI knowledge-based systems that help to be captured and basically help those teams. And so I think what we'll see though is an issue, and this is where I think things are going. I think we are already seeing this a little bit, is that some of these folks, especially the ones we deal with, are not going to want to export this data out to ChatGPT. So we're on a path to have actually in some cases more smaller, more refined AI systems that do very specific things, specific modalities, and then they're all kind of brought together. And using, I think the first generation RAG is sort of the first trying to RAG system to try to solve the hallucination issue. But I think it's moving really fast, and I think what we're going to see is more on-premise. You see like Apple, the on-device. We're going to have that, and we'll continue to have the large elements as well. Power, I figured that one out. There's a lot of discussion in the U.S. about nuclear and stuff, so it's all that. It's really fast moving, but that is going to be a huge value add, I believe, in these large systems, is to have AI helping to capture that knowledge over time. It's going to be
I agree. To me, it's like the obvious use case to have a knowledge base and feed one of these things in order to gather insights from it, either a code base or a system, all the documentation, as you say. The question for me, and probably you, one or the rest can help me, is how to present the tool, and that which is the best way to help the user in using this kind of tools. Because there is this chat-based UI, and I doubt that this is the best way to go. But specifically, going back to the small environments, do you see any way to incorporate these kind of tools in a visual way?
I don't think the answer to that question is obvious or can be asked quickly right now, the spot. But no, what I thinking is that in Smalltalk, in the Smalltalk 8 is quick image that now includes quiz and faro. There is a very rich history of how code evolved. Okay, and each Smalltalk system can call previous versions of methods, but only previous versions of methods, not previous versions of classes, or a high level overview of how code was refactored into different classes, methods, and different object graphs perform the same feature with perhaps better flexibility or design or whatever. So we have some isolated fine-grained tools to go back in time, method versions. If we use multi-chain quick, we can go to previous versions of packages or go through the update string to which previous update modified this code. I do that from time to time in quiz when I need something that is done in older versions, because for instance a class that was removed. I would do a graph, a file system, an operating system level graph on the folder that holds all the updates, the number of updates, to find the history of this idea, and then trying to find a proper prompt or graph that gives me, that points me to the changes that are relevant. So it doesn't work very well. Okay, and on top of that, some projects are hosted on each repository that has its own way of holding discovery history that is not easy to integrate with the others. So we have a huge mess of the history over there, and at some time there has been efforts to load all that history to some kind of database to be able to query it, but those efforts have never been complete enough to be comprehensive. And of course, time is an extra dimension, so it's an extra level of complexity. At the same time, we are trying to reduce complexity and removing all the stuff that is not essential. We want to add the extra dimension of complexity that is evolution over time. So, do we want more complexity or less? So, maybe a useful way of approaching this is that we may want code to understand snapshots and have an AI help us relate one snapshot with the other. So I would love an AI that I can train on the whole history of small posts, small located, and use a conversational, a chat interface to say, what can you tell me about this? How that this evolve? And it's not just a textual symbol service, but a more complex one. Hopefully, you can understand refactoring and reorganization of programs, and it can point me, okay, you need to take a look. This is relevant. In 1998, Tim Rowledge worked on this. Go look there. So, going on the history, maybe a couple of clicks on the web browser because it points to web resources where the code is stored, no longer in my image, and help me understand the history of a piece of code I'm interested in. I see value there because that level of complexity is clearly way beyond what a developer can totally get ahead.
Well, just version design topics here that basically goes to some sort of implementation. But you can say you can train not just on the code, but also if you want to talk to small lady, you can train on the purple book, blue book, and everything, and they will basically get the context of some decisions. But it's like, do you see it as as a replacement for the implementation? I mean, do we need? Let's suppose we are maybe at the step we are now. But even if you look for the implementation of some AI system like Lana or ChatGPT as a developer, there's how to use the API, but there's not. I mean, if you look for the implementation, maybe Anthropic for the cloud model, they have the implementation. The others, they don't have much. And do you see this kind of tooling where you can ask about the history of the code or how it evolves and everything as a replacement for human-written representation?
No, not at all. What I'm suggesting is an automation tool that can suggest interesting snapshots for me to study. It can also give in a smart way better than a teacher at higher level and point me to the stuff I need to understand, but I don't want to replace me understanding it.
Yeah, so I basically just say I 100% agree with that, and that's why some of our goals are really in line with that in terms of we're looking at it from okay, you have an existing team that's built up a lot of architectural knowledge, domain experience on a very, very large system. And now that team, the system lives long enough because it's critical to the backbone of various companies that it's going to outlive the team just in terms of aging out, retirement, not necessarily they die or something, but although that could be the case. And so new folks are going to come in, and those folks, there's going to be an incredible software archaeology activity that could take years. It could be never. It could be together. We don't understand what the magic number 12 means here. Like, I need help. Like, you have items, various. It's going to be good at those kinds of things to maybe be able to bring together, rationale possibly if it's good enough. And basically, the whole goal is to help the new teams come in and get up to speed as quickly as possible on these large systems. And so that's one of the goals that we see as being really important. It's like, how do we enable and empower new teams that come in to get up to speed on some of these very large and mission-critical systems that just have a tremendous amount of history to them.
Yeah, I would have that there's a great paper Peter Raoul wrote for an TAB where he explains, all these ideas that have the theory behind the solution that is not written in the code but that the people have. And if we could have a tool that could recreate that theory, like say the history or to understand the system, that would be great. I think we should stop reading Peter Raoul after that.
Well, and that leads into needing really multiple kinds of systems. There's the code base, there's meetings, there's documentation, significant positions from companies and sort of the output of that in email chains or whatever. Whatever you can imagine is coming along with the code itself. Being able to bring that together would help with this endeavor.
Yeah, and it's like we are not thinking as with stack traces as a training input. Because if you can use the time dimension, you can have more data just to see if there's a stack trace something, and then because there are like error explain what they are doing, machine learning, I don't know that exactly, but it's on the stack trace, basically just to interpret it, just provide like, okay, this might be an issue with the connection product. And they basically hit you to save you time just exploring what might be wrong. Because sometimes you look at the, you don't know what's wrong. And we have a very powerful debugger. Most of our experience is debugger-centric, at least for most of us. And you see, other than code completion, have you thought about having like AI, not driven, but just having the AI integrated into the debugger as a tool? After drinking?
I'm sorry,
sorry, this battle should happen after the social media.
I apologize, but I will jump back before your question. I comment on what Hernán said. I suggested using AI to study the history of code, and suggested doing the same with the history of the documentation and the proceedings of a large project. And then Hernán said doing that even with theory building. And I think these are three different levels of the demand on the AI system, and each one is much harder than the previous one. So who knows how far we can get in that ladder, right? Is it true? I don't know, perhaps we should start with history. Oh, that seems so much easier.
So I'll just give, just from our, so I bought our FinTech team, a 4090 to, basically there's a large history of meetings, from, 10 years worth of meetings or something like that, basically we use Whisper on to go through and, basically get the text from the meeting, but also have it be indexable as well. So if new folks came on and said, yeah, I want to learn about this, it could actually index into the appropriate place at the meeting, at the various meetings. And so you can imagine, if you're able, because the AI system is so much of it is about garbage in, garbage out. What does the data look like that's coming in? It's in the appropriate format, so the AI system's going to actually be able to make use of it appropriately. So for things like meetings, and a raw video, but that's probably not the best. So pre-processing, figuring out how to pre-process these different sources of information appropriately so they can be ingested into an AI system and subsequently used is also going to be a big task.
Yeah, I want to go back to something that you mentioned before about.
What about your question about developing an AI?
How do you want to answer that?
Yeah,
One hijack.
We're not debating. We're all agreeing.
I asked the
I'm
question.
not saying yes, that's going to be possible. I think in 2 weeks we're going to have an agent AI that's going to be back for us. What do you say, Juan?
You're making fun of me, and that's okay.
Because you don't agree with him when you do your program.
That's why it's interesting. If you agree on everything with someone, it gets boring. So there must be some friction for a couple to work, right? With respect to the gun, that's a completely different topic, of course. I don't know. I think it's something that is worth experimenting with, but I don't have enough in my mind to build an expectation.
I'm going to ask you this particular for Hernán, that is a teacher. Do you see this? I mean, the use with the small talk. We're always talking about small talk as to help this teaching the small talk, also teaching people to use the small talk, maybe existing programmers, as some way of tutor that we can have integrated into the learning experience of small talk.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think it could help. Again, there is a problem with that, and buy a book and say anything that's completely wrong. So, when I have students coming and asking me, who should I read to learn how to read the program? So, I said, there is no book. There's no one book. You have to be this one, that one, that one, that one. And that one says stupid things, the other one, you have to read to know what not to do, and those kind of things. So the problem of having that kind of agent or helper is that if you don't question what he's saying, and you take what he says as the truth, then it could be a problem. So that's maybe something that I'm not sure about, because students, they need the right answer. They're looking for the right answer. It's not, you cannot ask them, well, it depends, because they are looking for the right answer to start building their own experience and their own solutions. And so if you give it and they will take as right an answer from, if they take as the correct answer, an answer from ChatGPT, and they don't question it, they could be a problem. So I'm not sure about for newbies, for people that is starting to learn smalltalk. I don't know. I don't know if it's it could help, but it also won't. Yeah.
Same as you mentioned with rules. Same as you mentioned with rules. AI may get it wrong, the books also may get it wrong. So they should, as a student, you should start understanding that not only anyone can AI and movement of success do, you should have a little checking sometimes. That's part of the process. So I kind of agree with you here. I like the idea, especially when you are something learning, that you will learn the most when you make a mistake, and you have to learn how to fix it, because it's not a simple exercise. You have to go to a phase. In most cases, a plain text like text, to go that you have a very rich and visual information. That as a learning tool, and what you have to learn from it, I found it teacher and then
Yeah. So, yeah, I agree with that. The thing is that, for example, let's say you ask ChatGPT what are the best design heuristics. For example, ChatGPT will say solid principles. Solid principles, you have to follow the solid principles, and that's, I'm sorry about the word bullshit. Okay, solid principles are not principles, are not solid, and they're not the ones that you want to apply at the beginning. So that's the problem I see. When sometimes you have to think out of the box, or you have to think in a different way to get better solutions of what the common, most of the people do, because they just follow the crowd. And that's the kind of thinking that if you just believe what it tells you, maybe you won't have. But that's critical thinking, and yeah, of course, that's something that they really do try to have and prove and so on.
I could comment, and this problem with using ChatGPT for learning, or as you said, books or videos that is so common right now, is that sometimes when you're learning something, always when you're doing anything, you are on a specific standpoint and having a specific point of view to what you're doing. And that's why a teacher is so important and sometimes absolutely indispensable. A teacher can guess and try to understand what the student's point of view or something is, and give them the hints they need to go in a certain direction. And that can only be done today by a human teacher. And of course, it will never be done by a book. I doubt it will never be done by an AI. That's important. In different states of your mind, you may need different kinds of keys to go in a good direction.
We have a question, then we have a wrap up.
What makes you think that the, what makes you think that the teacher will be right? What is the reason why? Because I read a lot of books by teachers and saw a lot of videos by teachers, and they are wrong more than once. I'm sorry, yes.
My point is not that the teacher is right. So a book or a video by AI. Book or a video written or made by a teacher is completely different from a teacher. What the value I see in the teacher is that the teacher is trying to understand what the student is thinking and give a hint, not with the right answer. So to tell the student, walk in this direction or walk in that direction may be useful. It's not about that at all.
Yeah, what I want to add is that, you know, we used to take rules for as real as a proof, you know, and sometimes we don't question that. So with the number of rules we have right now, with the number of posts we have right now about how you have to go, how you have to design, critical thinking is really important. So yeah, it's not, you're right. I mean, a person can also lead you the wrong way. You're right. So I think and also I think that what Juan said is correct. So I think critical thinking is, something we should not lose and should improve.
There are good teachers, bad teachers, and good teachers in a good day, and good teachers in a bad day, of course.
Well, yeah.
Okay, just to wrap up, I will go in order here. Udin is just going around speaking like ideas, like as we call Trump talk about this particular topic with some good insights. But from your area of influence, basically, as a small developer, you develop an IDE, besides your work, you develop a small book, you are a teacher, and also develop your president of a commercial vendor of Smalltalk. What are your plans with AI related with the Smalltalk?
No plans at all. I will ask ChatGPT. No, to me, it's again something that we should pay attention. I still don't know how to include that in IDE, for instance. It goes down to the basic question or basic thing, which is whether these kind of tools can help us in thinking and learning or reduce that chance, right? And to me, it's important to clearly define how to present that in a way that really supports thinking, supports learning. And something that we didn't mention before is enjoying, because the other important thing about development activities is a pleasant, it's a pleasure, right? So even the activity that gives me pleasure to machining is something that I don't want to do, for sure. So, and the pleasure of learning, understanding, and all those activities, how to match them with a tool, AI, model, whatever agent. It's an open question, the way how to present.
Before talking about this, I want to ask you a quick
We
question.
change topics.
So, then, when you ask about the downsides and risks of this, okay, then I will think about that. And the topic now is plans. Okay, yeah. Well, I think that the small community, the bigger small community, will have plans. Of course, there's no central planning, but the plans that exist will be the result of getting together the plans for the activities that everyone is doing. And I think the small community needs a kind of plan, or at least needs to develop activities in this regard. So what I will say about my personal plans is limited to my position as a maintainer of a core small document. Okay, in the case of quiz, the objective of quiz is to enable experimentation, but to be minimalistic. So the main criteria of what gets included in quiz is the fundamental tools that a small developer needs. Okay? So anything that is not a fundamental tool that a small developer needs is not part of the core image, but is to be developed as optional package code that can be loaded in quiz. And so the reference because that's what you asked. And with these possibilities for AI that we have been exploring today, it's still an open question whether they are fundamental tools for a small developers or not. So I think at this time, what I call small image like this should do is to help people experiment and be an enabler for those things to happen. When it comes to adding, as we usually do, some little hooks in the basic to make their life easier, but not adding the more complexity of the experimentation in the basic. And how do that?
Yeah, I think I said it before, but a tool to help students learn how to teach using the support advice that I put in the image where
For instantiations, as I said, it's augmented human endeavor, not replace it. That means, and specifically for the kind of systems we support, that means enabling those teams to be able to have appropriate tooling to maintain a knowledge of that system. As we know from these really large systems, it's a lot like juggling. You try to keep all the balls up in the air, and if you get enough folks who are the ones who know these systems and they leave, the ball drops, and you're not going to get it back. And that's very dangerous. It's a high-risk place to be. So we want to enable that. We want to find new ways. We're currently doing a lot of discoveries. So R&D activity, really asking, but we have a number of questions we're asking. We think this has value, but does it? And so we're working with some partners of ours who are we've got a few of them that are doing deep into AI and research trying to go where we're at Raleigh there, who are helping us answer these questions. And we're prepared for the answer to be, this is a terrible idea, or this is a good idea, but it's going to be about 5 years until we'll even have the kinds of systems that can do this. Or whatever the case may be, we want to first do our due diligence and understanding the value behind these and really the value for our customers. And so that'll be a conversation with them as well. And then we'll see, but it's definitely a time of investment, and we certainly see there's a lot of value.
Okay, well, you pointed out about the risks, okay, or the downsides. Do you see any downside to not adopting this, or the risk of doing more, maybe? Yeah, anybody can answer this, that's another question.
have you seen Terminator?
Yeah, people are afraid of the machines taking over the world.
That's an old thing.
It's maybe worrying about that too, but in the near term for the kind of things that we are talking today, I see two risks that were briefly mentioned already, and one of them is leading people, especially inexperienced people who are learning, leading them to believe that the answers they will get from a fuzzy system, not a formalized system, are true when we all people know they are not. So we, as we build these tools, we need to make it apparent that the answer is just a hint and not a truth. And the other risk that I see that I is that this may lead some people, and some people may be in the majority of younger people, to believe that understanding is no longer necessary. That's what I am afraid of. Any other things?
Yeah,
Choose your answer.
totally agree with one. That is a risk. And again, as I believe that we should include somehow these tools, the problem is again how to set clear that the thing can say bullshit. Yeah. Right? So I'm interested. Yeah, well, interested in the ways to show that to the user. That's my
Okay, we have 2 minutes before break, so we're open to questions, if any.
answers. We need answers, not questions.
So, if there are questions, please. Say hi.
I have some answers. You ask us how you can implement on an easy way on an IDE without using chat and AI. You can use just a UI item that we have today, that is a menu item. You select some code and just say comment this code, and it will comment it, and it will be quite right if you embedded your framework on the any LLM you're using, including dia2, and it's open source and you can use it locally. So it's quite easy. Or make the text for this class, and it will work also. So that's an easy way to implement it. I have a question. What do you think the rest of the industry is doing wrong right now? Because they are all going to AI tools, and we are still thinking if it's valuable to our users. What do you think they are doing wrong right now, and why we don't accept that they are doing the right thing, or at least go there, because we are slow. We know that. We are a small community in the whole world, and if we don't decide, if we don't make the decision right now, probably they are going to leave us behind if we are wrong.
I just want to say, I don't think the other guys are doing the wrong thing at all. They are researching, and I think we should be doing that.
Okay.
I cannot say I know what the industry is doing in saying enough to agree. What I can say is that the general propaganda does the same as it always does. What they did with programming, and what they did with the web, and what they did with each part of technology, and whatever, that is to try to be the first one to come with what everybody will want, even if they have no clue. So they make habits, and marketing people get in the middle and try to build brands and concepts that are core usually. So that's something that the industry usually does wrong, and is doing perhaps wrong this time too. So, and these small focus tend not to do that. And for not doing that, we are left behind sometimes. And I don't have a solution to that.
I agree. I started by saying that even when these might be high, as Stefan mentioned before, we should pay attention. We should include it in this IDE that I developed. I already included this kind of menu options that essentially prevents the user from entering a prompt and thinking how to prompt something when you, as you know what you are what you are asking for. So for instance, connecting code, categorizing, many tiny things. But my question was about a more general way to, as we were discussing here, for students or for people that want to reflect on the system, how to present that more than tiny things that these LLMs can do pretty good. And for sure, these kind of tools like you mentioned, commenting, explaining, improving, suggesting snippets, all these things should be included in the idea. That's my opinion. Even for the sake of not being all, I don't know, more isolated than we.
I guess I'll just say from an industry perspective, what I see right now is a lot of fear and sort of risk as far as if I see it in contracts. You know, are you using AI? You must let us know. We're seeing, and so there's the provider part, like everybody who's building the AI systems and all the money going into that. Then there's the enterprise users who are still just trying to figure out what the heck is going on. Like, are they really? They're not going to export their data out to out to these big LLMs, and they're trying to figure out. And that's why I think the next phase of this whole thing is where we're headed is more this smaller on-premise, on-device. So that's a new direction that it'll have to go, because that's the only way you're going to get buy-in from these larger enterprises. They're not going to send all their data out to be chugged on by ChatGPT. So they're still they're looking at it right now with a lot of just risk and sort of what's going on here, and a little scared about it. So I think that will build the pressure to build more on-premise types of deployments. But not to suggest that large LLMs will go away. I think they'll always be there, and they'll have their utility.
Yeah, if you look at the search on Stack Overflow, basically they correlate with the launch of ChatGPT, basically going down through. Because you don't have to go search, you can just ask. And you can have like hallucinations. So as the models get better, actually the newer one has also like even a Python interpreter. So basically it can generate Python code and execute it until it tells you if it works or not. It's not just generating code. It's dedicated to an agent that runs the thing. So the feedback loop is going to get faster and faster. And we are again proud of our fast feedback loop. Maybe that's another thing where we should pay attention to, just not lag behind. Any other question? No? Let's say hi with a big applause to this guy. We have a break now.
Break down.
Me preguntaron si hay una conferencia nueva, preguntas no.
Debería haber, pero no íbamos a...
O sea, solo el video.
Solo video. Solo video. Somebody exaggerates that will make it. So he sent the video. Oh, I'm going to play the video. Okay? Right now. The time was going away and I'm going to present our vision. Just together and say our vision and many of the ideas are not totally original and new. Our vision has been impacted or inspired by smalltaks, and it all can be considered reincarnation or new implementation of smalltaks. Well, actually, this statement is quite controversial, and you may very well refuse to call it smalltaks. Definitely, it is not a direct continuation of the line of evolution stemming from smalltaks. As you know, in the first decade, smalltaks was growing very quickly, and its design has undergone a number of radical changes. Smalltalk 80 was really different from Smalltalk 71 or Smalltalk 72. Many of the original ideas have been abandoned in favor of optimizing the language for its hardware possible. And we are trying to revise some of these decisions and to propose alternative language development. Well, our research is an attempt to reimagine or re-engineer software engineering itself. One of the key goals is to reduce the accidental complexity of the present day software development stack. And why should that? We want to build the whole thing out of carefully chosen set of basic building blocks, primitives, character chosen set of abstractions, which should be easy to combine together, easy to reason about, and importantly, easy to learn and easy to understand. We really want to build a language that can be learned. It's the basis of syntax in a day. Another ambitious goal is to deal with get schism between the activities of recurrent and functional programming styles. And by that I don't mean building yet another collective multi-paradigm programming language where you have the functional and the object-oriented parts. No, I mean providing some kind of unified approach to programming, unified experience. And another big idea is that even if you have
basic design of the language, still code is a complex. It's a complex structure and needs to be treated as such. And the traditional approach, traditional way of doing that is called defined text files and requires the index then to single resolution and all kinds of analysis, back inference, control analysis, etc. It doesn't say. You don't preserve that computational effort, you throw it away, you have to redo all this second comparison every minor change, and we want to do something better. And in a sense, it's just a step forward comparing to the original small idea of storing code in image files. So we want to preserve the internal structure, we want to preserve the single resolution information, we want to be able to store additional information such as inference size, for example, or all kinds of metadata, and that brings a lot of benefits. Well, to use better tooling makes many things really trivial, because your code representation will be indexed by non-function, so that makes many important reflections very simple. You have structural different nodes, things like code definition of unused will become really trivial. That should allow us to have a very efficient incremental compilation work for many different things. And finally, the final consideration is that we enter the AI age, and having a solution should be built, taking them into account. And we believe that the minimalism of the model, this is the model, and the structural representation of code should allow us for better quality coding, AI coding assistance tools. For many reasons, because the model is that simple, it's easy to reason about, easy to understand in a sense, but also because it's easier to provide the necessary context in the structural representation, and it's also easier to validate code related by AI, and you have a simple model and reference assistance. And this is just a little example of what I mean. Next example, complexity of the presentation of the mistake before starting this journey. I've been working on the coding compiler for a few years. And this is an incomplete and oversimplifying list of function lines in coding. Well, coding is a nice language, and some people may argue always think they're for a reason, but we want them to be just one thing, function. So when we think about all the design goals, of course, it's clear that Smalltalk they have in common with the original Smalltalk vision. And Smalltalk vision is a simple minimalist language applying the same set of design principles all the way down. It also brings functional and object programming together, because functions are called objects and obviously. And it does have this simple minimalist syntax, this postcard, but it's really simple enough and the make simpler. If you look closer, you will find a number of irregularities and broken signatures here. For example, the message presidential forms seem irreliable. And the kind of broken symmetry between methods and laws. They all do basically the same thing, but you use different syntax to define them, and with some statements they have different here. All they need just one thing. We investigate objects, for example, we can see some hardcoded language variables and constants, like this complex, Boolean, literals, etc. And the cell itself. The language has no interface types and has just entailed type definitions, specifications, which is a bit problematic. Tried how to do that, but still the standard libraries, standard factors suffer from that problem. Metaclasses have some method complexity. I remember learning smalltalk and metaclasses where the first major obstacle, I was wondering why we need them and when no other language uses them, or if they are so useful, why don't we have metaclasses? That can be possibly simplified, and again, this is one of the biggest problems that classes have to have too many and yet never enough methods. And if you look at, let's say, class integer, you'll find a lot of methods which don't belong to the idea of integer number. And that varies, of course, varies of the single responsibility principle, and I find it a major design issue. Yeah, of course, we recently got extensions, and it's now possible to synthesize some behavior without modifying original curses, but the way they are implemented makes them second-class feature. So, we try to fix these problems. Of course, there are some new problems to the language, but this is our solution. So, we won't have to really minimize design of our classes. This is how we define true and false constants. We don't have true and false classes, so true and false objects are just instances of the abstract Boolean type. And they have, as you can see, they only have two methods, string and if. This is all you need, and all the other methods, behavior is implemented using regular functions. And that makes your classes really easy to understand. You can also see that here we use the same syntax for defining methods, standalone functions, and anonymous blocks. There's a lambda column syntax, and if you don't have, if your method doesn't have parameters, you can omit lambda, and the type symbol stands for function application, or method application, or message passing, whatever you call it. And yeah, this example makes it clear that syntaxes is the kind of as expressions, so parentheses or indentation for as expressions. Again, you can see that the previously defined if statement is applied as a function. So is method, I'm sorry, it's a method, but it's applied the same way functions are applied. Here are a few more examples. You can see how you can define some useful functions in very complex way. This is how you create a list of objects. Again, you see that you just format it such as a list constructor, and you can create objects like that invoking the factor function, which is basically just the type definition and pointing to the parameters, and the IDE can also provide you with some assistance here. So you get a familiar event experience, but you don't have to type the parameter names. And you can see the inference type here. Yeah, and you may like it's, but the question is it really small talk? How were there to call it small talk? And this is a random question, but let's look at some of what has been called small talk historically. This is small talk 71, their original vision, so to say. And here we can find very interesting things. We can find top-level functions, and we can find pattern matching. We can find pattern matching methods. We can find a very interesting way of constructing data structures, so that you do some pattern matching and then you return the captured result as a data structure, and then you apply some functions to it, again by pattern matching. And you can see some methods like syntax. And it's really difficult to find proper words for everything here. And you can see a lot of different programming styles combined together. And this is tool, and you can see that again. This couple things apparently defines class or something class like, but actually it's implemented kind of pattern matching function, pattern matching program, which does pattern matching against the string of incoming messages. And the idea of a message is different here from every token is a message, and the object or the function or whatever you call it is free to decide how to interpret it. Again, almost 72, and this is how we define the four statements, function, whatever, again, like pattern matching and functional syntax. And one of the proposed smalltaks syntaxes. I don't know if it has been ever implemented, but I really like it. It's really very close to what I demonstrated. So if all this can be called smalltalk, why our little language cannot be? And you will see a lot of different things here, and that you see values, and you can see that functional and object-oriented programming styles, methods and functions, objects and functions, and things in such a way that it's often difficult to tell one from the other. And this is another way, the fact that we can define objects, object-oriented programming using that functions, using that photos, has been discovered a long time ago, and it can be summarized as this form by Anton van Straten, objects are formats photos, photos are formats objects. And why formats? I think that because it was said about the language, it was said about scheme, and in scheme there is no, objects are not like those objects. So you still need to build them yourself. And in our language we of course want to support them in a syntax level. So this is how to get your object from the functional programming. An object is just a function encoder that has a message select or some identifying your message. And a response another encoder the methods doing the actual job as the permissions. And of course, another encoder can capture and translate and private in the space, also immutable. And that's the language functions that return our objects. And if you think about it, it allows you to read object range calls in traditional object languages, even languages such as Java, in functional terms. The cat syntax is just a syntax sugar for defining the terms. And the idea that messaging somehow stored in the class and belongs to that in the implementation detail and flow implementation, you don't need to think about it. You can keep a set as small because on the framework functions and functions that are responsible for encapsulation work with your private interface really need to be implemented as methods, and all the other functions can be just functions can be used between different implementations of the same type shape. So you can still write your programs in more functional, less functional ways, and that's a matter of taste, of style, and basically amount to how you handle mutation. Do you really want to hide it from the site? And how you isolate side effects? Do you want them to be moved out of the core of the system from that code to the border or not? And do you treat natural functional arguments as passive, transparent sellers or as effector objects with their own behavior? Again, there is no big grand device. You can adjust all these options separately, independently. It doesn't matter all. So we are just in the beginning of our journey. We are trying to shape this vision into a valuable product formula. And we are really interested in hearing your feedback and what you think about it. Thank you very much.
Okay, so we have a minute for questions, but if you have questions, you are open to back him. So we're going to make a presentation about smart type checking in its future. This is Liam, and I'm Benjamin Strosu. Okay. Thank you. At least you understood the bad joke. So I was saying how system type systems can be categorized, because we usually believe that there are only two categories, and if you know a little bit more about that system, you see that there are more than two. The first one is related to when to do the type checking. It's the most common one, and it has static typing like Java, C#, C++, etc., and dynamic typing, small doctors, and so on. And remember that even though you have static typing, when you have subtyping, you have to do some type checking dynamically, like for example, blank cast and so on, if you want to have a robust type system. The other category is that it could be strong typing, like Java, C#, so on, and weak typing, like C++, and maybe JavaScript, Visual Basic 6 could be weak typing. And that's the idea is what the type system of the language does when you break the type system. For example, Java doesn't allow you to assign a long to an int, but in C you can do that because it's your responsibility. There is a lot of talk and history about why it happens like that, but I don't have time for that. So Smalltalk is a strong. Somebody's going to say it. Okay. But there are other categories, like for example, how the elements are typed, variable, maximum, method, so on. So we have explicit types like Java, C#, infer types, like TypeScript, Haskell, XML, and collected types, like typing. And also how types are defined. Most of the types we know are by name, like Java, C# and so on. But you can also have something that now is more popular called structural typing. That's what TypeScript does, and we have been doing it in the 70s. Okay? Just if you didn't know, with Smalltalk we are doing structural typing. Now you can say that and say, oh, we're like TypeScript, that's the deal. So anyway, with Smalltalk, with like typing is dynamic, strong, collect, and infer type for generics, and structural type. Okay? So what's this? Doesn't make sense to have a type checker in such a system. So I want to be clear about this because the goals of the type checker of light typing is not the same goals that you have on statically typed languages, and that's why sometimes people don't understand it. But our goal is we don't want light typing or our type checking to stop you from compiling. That's not the idea. It's not the same idea as statically typed language. And it's not the idea to improve performance and those kind of things, at least not yet. Maybe we will do it someday. The goals are to help the programmer with possible type mistakes and to provide better user experience. Like, for example, when refactoring, when using the auto completion, or those kind of things. So what I changed that, but what I want to do is draw an example of how the current type checker works on quiz with live typing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to type check the collection class. Okay? This is an interesting example because there is a type error in collection. And the third error is that string contents is sent in string contents is sent to species, and a species could be an instance of a set. And a class doesn't have, and that a set doesn't implement the string context message. So here we have a set, if we send the message flattened to the
Who is the author of that method? Who is the author of
Then you look at the person, oops. Well, I'm sure it wasn't my idea. So, okay, so if you send flat into it, you will have an error, okay? So this is an interesting example of how the type checker can help you to find common type errors that we don't usually see because of hierarchy stuff and and what are the problems with the current implementation of the type checker? This is an example where, just to show you the problem, this variable types is order collections, the small integer, date, string, whatever. But here it says, okay, if it's a collection and it's a class and it's a string, so if true, send a message as lowercase to it. If you type check this method, the current implementation of the type checker will tell us, this is an error because all the collections, small integer and date, do not implement as lowercase. But that's not really an error because we filter, the type. Also, we have another issue. For example, in this case, it will work because it's not using the and, but just it will go. So the same example works, but it depends on how you write the filter. And finally, just to show you that this is not implemented in the, it's not integrated with other tools like the auto-completion or the one that shows you the type of a variable. Here it says that var should be order collection, small integer, date, and string, even though we know that it should be date. No, it should be string. Okay? So those are the limitations of the current implementation, and those are the things that we wanted to fix. That's what we got.
Right. Thank you. Okay, so basically, as part of my master thesis work with Hernan for the University of Buenos Aires, we decided to tackle these issues, and basically, as you saw here in this general schema of light typing, type checker was originally integrated with a feature called cast and reject appliance, and that was like highly coupled. So we want to increase the type checker cohesion, limiting its responsibilities only to the fact of do the type check based on the type information coming from somewhere. Therefore, reduce the coupling with this functionality of cast and reject appliers, complete its missing features like supporting the and or messages. And by doing this, we should be able to extend this functionality to the code completion, the auto completion, and what Hernan just showed, which is the variable selection. And also develop all of this over the generics work, which is a previous master thesis that basically improved light typing with the being able to support generics, for example, for collections. Now, instead of having just an order collection, if you start assigning items to it, you could know that inside that order collection you could have integers, dates, or whatever. Okay, so how did we do this? Basically, like creating a new context appliance feature, no more custom rejects, a new one that interacts with light typing, receives types from light typing, and transforms types accordingly to what that context is trying to capture. Then develop a new type checker feature over generics that will assume that always, all the time, types are context aware, or that are correct. and finally extend this context appliers to type checker for completion and variable expression. So to give you a little bit of the motivation, besides the example that I'm going to show, here we can see again the same collaboration bars lowercase in 3 different scenarios. In the first one is the general one. It could be a type error if we run the type check there, because, well, as lowercase is implemented in dates, small integer for collection. And in the rest of the two, the developer makes sure that the context enclosure in that block node is correct. So in the second example, it's saying, hey, I'm only want to do as lowercase if I'm sure that var is a string. So we should capture that and we should create that context inside that block, because inside that block we know that var is a string, it's just a string. And the same for the third one, but it's filtering out one type at a time. So the idea is moving from this to this, basically, with context appliers as a new feature depending on live typing and providing information to other features. So I can show you an example. Basically we have the same method than before. We run a type check, and here it's saying that there is a type error in vars lowercase at no risk in which vars lowercase, in the first one. And it's saying that as lowercase is not implemented in order collection and date, but it's not saying anything about integer. And that is actually correct, because we just filter out integer. Also, you can notice that it's not showing any error in the last collaboration. So this is working, and also you can see that in this context, this should be working. In this context, the general one var is date for the collection of something, small integer and string, but here it's no longer an integer, and here it's just a string. So that's what we want. Here we have this context awareness.
You still haven't re-implemented class.
Sorry?
Yeah, I'm sorry about that.
Right, so the whole idea is build the context properly. So in this example, we need to build a context where var is a collection for the if true part based on that inside that block, and for the if false part of the statement, build a context where var is not a collection, just the opposite, and therefore calculate the types accordingly. How did I do this? Basically, well, with TDD, creating a new method as a test case, and saying which is the context that I'm interested in, calculated types, and which is the node that I want to calculate the types. Out of these strings, it will get the actual block node and node variable, right? And then asserting the types that I want. So the key elements to perform this is to have the compile method, the target node, and the block node that will serve as context. So hopefully we will see in action again, but we don't want to detail. So if you take a look at this example, this just simply is trying to cast E1 as small integer. So let me run this. That is basically doing what I just showed you, getting the actual block to test, P1 factorial, and I want to test against P1. So hopefully at the end of the day, types will return just a small integer. How is this performed? Ignore all the else, it's just for this presentation. By creating a visitor that will be iterating through the whole compile method, using the AST information and visiting all the nodes. So that's basically the key part of how to do this. And again, ignore all the else. The whole idea is that we are going to visit each block node inside the compile method, and as long as we don't find the one that we are looking for V1 factorial, as you can see here, and as long as we don't find it, just keep looking. But if we find it, okay, ask the line type, ask the types. Line types is because it's going to be over-generated now. To the current context applier. Right now, the current context applier is the general one, which will forward everything to line typing. Then we visit the message nodes. I think we can run this one. What's important here is that we care about all the possible combinations between if true and false. So we have one here, you can see it in the right. So this we care about. Okay, so basically what we want to do is to see if we need to update or not the context. And for this case, we know we need to update the context because we have an if there. Once we have that, I'll show you later what this should update for message has. But basically, right now we have a new context that will serve as the current one for the method that we are going to visit next, which is the one that we are looking for, this one. And I can show you the new context for you to take for you to know what it's about. First, it has a reference to the previous one, so it can be restored after it visits the whole block. Then it knows, by inspecting and analyzing the condition, that it should be applied to V1, and that the type, this is small integer. This is one kind of all the possible contexts, the one that can either cast or filter types. For this particular one, it's not going to filter, therefore it's going to cast. Okay, so it's going to visit the new block with this as the current context applier. So when we get to the block node again, now they're matched, and now the context applier is the one which is built. And when we ask for the types, well, here it will ask if it should filter or casting, in this case casting. And casting to a specific type is just as simple as putting that as the type. So if we proceed, the result is small integer squared. Okay, now I have one more and last example to show you. This is a little bit more complex because it's how the nested ifs works. So let's do this again. This will be a little faster. Here we are again visiting the, if you don't remember the method that's there, we are again visiting, and now we are in the first of the two ifs. Here, as the opposite of the previous example, we want to filter small integer instead of casting. So it will create exactly the same context that I just showed you before, because it's basically doing the same, but this time it's saying that it's going to filter instead of casting. But it's the same. Okay. Now that will serve as the current context for the whole block. And the block that is going to visit with that as the current context is the second, basically, block that contains the second if. So we proceed to that. We are again, but now we are visiting the second if, the nested one. And the current context applies is an equals. And again, it will. Sorry. And again, it's going to ask if it should filter or not. If it should update it or not. Let's take a little look to that. basically, what we need to know is if we are if we are rejecting the condition or not. In this case, we are it's true, so we are not rejecting the previous condition. That's the outcome of that. And then out of the whole message, we get just the condition, which is another message node. And with that condition, which is basically the is string, send it to the one. We want to see which context do we have to build. So this is another message node, and the way we did this is by asking questions to the message node to see which one is it. You will see a lot of ifs here. Maybe we could improve it later. But again, we will need to spread all of this logic to all the selectors. So it's a debate. We should do it or not. So far it's here. Okay, so if it's not nor, it's not minor, it's not comparing quality, blah, it will detect which one. It's not conduct, it's not nil, but it is an is type, returning volume. It's going to build that. What's interesting about this context is that it's not fixed to only existing message like this string, this collection, this integer, but it basically can support any custom message that we create, as long as it starts with is something, and all the implementations of that messages, those messages, all the implementations returns a volume. If that's the case, then we are going to support it. So without any extra effort of So that's why we pass the selector symbol to this context. I don't know which one is it. Here we know it's a string, but it could be anyone else. Okay, so we proceed, and what's interesting here is that this new context is the one that I just showed you, that as previous, it has the equals context, and that equals context as previous, it has the general one. So we have this linked list of context of that. And at the end of the day, when we visit and we find the block that we want, the one that we were looking for, the one's lowercase, and as the light types, again we're going to cast it. This will be a little more complex because we want to cast to that is something message. So we are looking for all implementers that message returning true. And take a look at this. The original types for this context of U1 are just ordered collection of strings, but not small integer. And why is that? Because we asked for the original types to the previous context, and the previous context already knows that V1 is not longer integer, so it's not returning. Okay, and here for all the types, it will look if the start selector exists or not, and if it does, in this case, it will check if it's returning true, because we want to test. Out of that, we only have string as result, so that's pretty much it. We proceed, and that's how we have the string as the final result. This is basically how all of this is working. Okay, so to have the bigger picture of it, at the end of the day, we will end having kind of bisection between all the nested ifs and the context appliance build. Each one will have a reference to the previous one, all going back to lifetime. These are all the context appliers that I built. The equals one of this type I already showed you. The is kind of takes care of the is kind of message. As you can see in the this type, I implemented this is employee and it will work. Then equals to little, and also the logical to solve for the and or message is no other thing than a combination of two other context appliers. So recursively, this can support all of the combinations of and or that we want. And if we have an and, then the final outcome is the intersection between the type of the left context applier and the right context applier. And if it's an or, it will be the union. And inside those, you could have more and or nested. So this will be solved with recursion basically. Okay, that's it for the context applier. Now, how is this integration for the new type checker? Which it does basically the same as before, but without taking care of all this context. So, as you can see in the original implementation, all the types was requested directly to the node, and that means request the types directly to live typing. And then, by getting all the types of the receiver, it's checking if the message being sent currently is implemented in all those types. The whole point of making this context aware is just changing that to ask the same to the context applier, and of course, if the context applier updated, as I just showed you, do exactly the same. So we go to request directly from live typing to request to the context applier. And that's the whole change we need to do in the type checker for this to happen. Finally, for the code completion and variable inspection, basically we need to base all these for the position of the cursor or the mouse. So based on the source range dictionary of the compiled method, we try to detect if we are inside a block node or not based on the limits. If we are not, then we keep the original path, which is the one on the left, requesting, as you can see, directly the information to live typing to the node. But if we find the block node, then we pass it along and fork to these new calculate types with context. That again, as you can see, now the types are being requested. The types of the node are being requested to the method, to the compiled method, and it's giving the block node to analyze. So with this information, it will create the context and as the types as I just showed. Okay, so that's basically where it's done until today. Hope to get my degree. For future work, the idea is to integrate these two things, both generates and the new context applies in type checker to quiz official version. All context adaptive work was done only by analyzing if true, if false, if needed, all possible combinations. This could be possible extended to while true, while false, even though those cases are more border cases where the while condition interferes with the type inside the block, but could be. And also, no performance tuning was done. There's no need because this responds fast enough right now. As you can see, it's not the same to go directly from live typing than doing all the analysis of all the conditions to create all the context and then ask all the types. There's so much more overhead that maybe we could improve somehow. So there's open field there to investigate those. That's it.
In the case that you are doing the type check with a bar class equal infinite, if I extract the method, I take this code and do extract method and create a method, it will continue working or analyze it?
No, it should continue working. It will all depend depend on which variables you are working on. The examples I showed you are all with local variables. So if the stack method works correctly, then everything will work. This will also work with instance variables. That's the more interesting cases, actually. Yes, it will continue working because here it's all about, I mean, we still strongly rely on live typing. So as long as live typing continue working, this will continue working, and we know that live typing will continue working on those cases. So the answer is yes.
Because in that case, the typing method will be return a boolean.
Yeah, no, but this also takes care of the types being returned by the examples I showed you are just assignments, but with the returning nodes, it will continue working.
You mentioned that you also have implemented this string that you work. What happens if that's confused and how is method like resolve or retire where it's not a type information but a method? Does it get confused or is it what's wrong?
Sorry, can you repeat that a little bit louder?
Sorry. You mentioned that you work like with this something method, where you call tags with an method. Does it get confused when you have like this method which calls another thing, for example, visual retire, which doesn't recognize? Does it get confused or it works as it?
So let me see if I understand. So if the is method, is message implementation, send another is message, is that right? That's what you're asking?
No, for example,
It's not like that. It's not like that.
si tenés un método que pregunta, por ejemplo, si el viejo que no modifica tipos, sino que pregunta, ¿eso confunde al sistema o sigue funcionando?
No. So
No, it will depend on if all your hierarchy, for example, that you have one, all answer the question of is all or is retire, then in terms of typing, it will be the same. The original types will be preserved, basically because all can answer the question is all or not. But now, if you have different implementations for is all and for example, boy answers is all to false and the rest is true, for example. And if you have some variable that could be based on that typing a boy, and you ask is all, then inside the method it will filter out boy. So that basically depends on how you implement and who answers is boy basically.
yeah, I'm sorry. And one other thing. When we look for what an is message is returning, we look at the type, not its implementation. So if the return type of is something is true or it is false, we don't care about how it is implemented. So that's why it works.
Okay, I have a question. Regarding performance, you mentioned there's no drive test yet. Have you ever tried it on a large system? Because if you are having a lot of context per method or per block, that's what we call performance on large code basis. Do you have plans to test it or not yet?
Yeah, exactly. No, that's why there's a lot of fields to investigate. For the use cases that this was meant for, we could test that there's no performance issues, but we know, we are aware that the overhead should be considered, yet the direct answer is no.
Remember that when you always checking for a method, and all the type information is there, parameters, variables, instance variables. So it would take more if you want to check the whole category of classes, but in those spiritual.
Right now, I see types as variables being members of classes. But there are interesting types that are subranges, so the positive integers, the lesser ones, the characters that you're going to extend so that you have a richer notion of type membership.
Yeah, I answer that. Yeah, that's an interesting field of research, Right now we are covering the notion of type with class, and that's not correct. But
it's a start.
yeah, that's right. But we did that because it's what we usually do, but we should have like a protocol. The problem is that in Smalltalk we don't name those protocols. So we have to look a way for that to be usable, understandable, and not to interfere as Smalltalk program. Because we don't want that typing to take any time from you. So that's why it collects types. It doesn't tell you to write the types. It does everything for you. So in that case, how do we get the name of that protocol? That's the issue.
That's it. Thank you very much.
When we say how much he deserves, this is 5, 6, or 1 to 10? 6? Okay.
We take a break for lunch because we are